Welcome to Accelerate Your Wealth, a podcast by Rebecca Robertson, founder and director of Evolution Financial Planning. This series, we're focusing on female financial independence, looking towards a stronger financial future. Be sure to let us know your thoughts on the show, and please do connect with us on Facebook, LinkedIn or Instagram, or head over to www.rebeccarobertson.co.uk.
So hello and welcome to today's session. I'll be talking to Skye Barbour, and Skye is a business and leadership strategist, has played a vital part in helping ambitious entrepreneurs build multi-6, 7 and multi-7-figure businesses by halving their workloads whilst doubling their profits. I worked with Skye, so I'll be sharing some of my story with Skye today and how she's helped me. And we're going to be talking about how you shift from sole trader on your own to having a team and how to manage that team ongoing. So how to pivot being on your own to having your dream team. Enjoy. Hello, Skye. You're lovely. Skye B, as I like to call you, like you're some sort of Skye B in the house, like some rapper coming at you like Cleopatra kind of vibe. Every time I see your name on Facebook or wherever, I'm like, Skye B in the house.
Because there are that many Skies, we have to have the surname.
Exactly. And what a great surname. You've got Barbour as your surname and you're an active farmer's wife. So, and your surname's Barbour. Is that not ironic? Do you not wear a barber?
Well, I do have a few barbers, yes. But well, my dad's side of the business are retailers as well. So they used to sell barber jackets all the time. And my grandparents used to people used to think that she was the Margaret Barber because her name was Margaret, and no, she wasn't. I mean, I often say to people, like, if that was my family, when I worked in retail myself, I was like, I wouldn't be working in this shop. I'd be working in a different one.
Well, it's lovely to have you, Skye Barbour, Skye B in the house. And so I invited Skye along today because I'm a business owner. I've been a business owner for 10 years. I've grown my advisor business to 9 advisors, then back right down to 2. This is me and one other, which is lovely and quiet and comfortable. I'm not always going to stay in the comfortable lane, by the way. It's just how I like it right now. And I've had, I'm trying to grow my online business on my marketing side of the company. Whichever company you're looking at, that I've had different people doing different jobs. Mm-hmm. And I got to a point last year after a terrible experience, which I never want to relive, massive lessons learned around who you have in your team and what impact they have and how toxic they are, and really questioning people's intentions and what they think the job is. And sometimes we have like this idea of what other people are looking for. And so I used to think that's what I need. So people were talking about operation directors or OBMs or online business managers, as they're called, or executive PAs, VAs, all these different sort of fancy words. And I got to a point where I just lost any concept of what my team needed to look like. I was confused by what it should look like, what I needed, what I wanted. And I was reaching burnout. I had actually reached burnout, and I was spending so much time managing my team and not enough time actually running the business or generating business or talking to clients. And I spent a third of my week just managing situations, problems, etc. So having the right team is crucial, because it then draws your energy and your time, energy being actually the worst thing. I always love the saying, manage your energy, not your time, because something like that was just draining. And I was then having to micromanage people because I didn't understand any other way of doing it. And I had I didn't intentionally have the wrong people doing the wrong jobs. I bear in mind, I was a regional sales manager running a team of 28. I've worked in management before. I've been in business 11 years now. But it just wasn't clicking, and I couldn't figure out why. So come saveth the day. I went and spoke to Skye, and I'll be honest, I don't know if you're in business, I don't know if you have this, Skye, but you see someone talks the talk and you're like, you sound perfect, I'm really excited. But eventually, once you've been in business 11 years, you're like, Yeah, I've heard it all before, love. Let's just see what can happen first. We'll just see
You're
what
saying
you
you're
can
cynical,
do.
Rebecca.
I am getting a little bit cynical in my older age. Yeah. And let's just see if you can do it, right? And to be fair, I found out where my blind spots were. I figured out what I was doing wrong, and now I actually have one person doing all the jobs that the other people were doing before, and I have so much more time. I don't have to micromanage anybody, and it's built so much better structure in my business, and everyone knows what they're doing and what the expectations are. And it was really enlightening, and there wasn't anything that was, it was a lot of what I was doing when I was a regional sales manager. Like I just brought a lot of structures that you brought into it, asked the right questions, and figured out what I was doing wrong. You just sometimes you just need that little bit of insight to give you a clearer path down the road. So that's a little testimonial for Skye, and that's why I brought her into this call, because I think it's a big challenge for people to scale and to grow their businesses on their terms, how they want it to look. And I think it's a big issue for people to go from one-man bands or just dealing on their own, and then like the first step to then take on maybe a VA or a social media manager. But actually then what happens after that? Like, what does that look like as a next step?
Yeah, the hiring part is like actually the easier part. Everyone thinks it's the hardest. Like, I don't know who to find or where to find them. It's actually once they're in, that's when the hard work starts.
Right. So talk to me a little bit about your process. How do people start to navigate recruiting? Think about what kind of person they want, and what are the steps they have to do to make sure they're starting on the right foot?
Yeah. Okay. Love this. And it is really different as well, hiring and growing a team from your business baby than when you're in a job. Like hiring, and I've had hundreds of people run teams of 250 people in one team at a time. And it is very, very different when it is your money, when it is your responsibility, when it's your business and your baby and your name above the door, and reputation to protect. So if anyone's feeling like, oh my goodness, like this feels like a big deal, or I'm not big enough, I'm not ready enough, I would say, like, don't worry, you're not alone with that. Like I had so much training in it and I still felt like that. But as one person, we can only do so much. And yes, we can systemize, we can automate, we can bring in digital products and things like that, if that's the way you want to go down. But unless it's you marketing, unless it's you answering the emails, like nothing gets done, nothing gets sold, nothing happens without you when you're on your own. So that's great if you want a freelancing job, but it's not if you want to have a business that even to take like a week from and you want to move forward. So we need to introduce people at some level of your business. And it can be small. It can be in a really like 5 hours a month, even can make a difference to you and your business. So in terms of like how to go about recruiting, I think the key thing is to identify like, well, what is it you need? And that need is going to be slightly different from person to person, although I can talk about themes of like, let's get you out of the inbox, or let's get you out of like the tennis playing communication to get someone booked in, or like, that's kind of like the admin based task. But you want to focus on like, what is it you love? I call it talent zone. What is it you're brilliant at? What are the things that you really enjoy doing? Typically, that's where the money is. So with your case, Rebecca, like you are amazing with clients. You're amazing at building rapport with people, building trust with people, having them open up, like you to then support them with their finances. And way beyond that, your talent is lost when you have to do loads of different see, she's flicking her hair here. If you're listening to this on the podcast, feeling very good about herself, but it is lost when you're just spending your time like going through the dregs of the inbox, as an example. Or I look at things holistically, like doing all the ironing, washing and washing up and cleaning at home, when you could be having great conversations and building your network in your networking business, as an example. So there's it's identifying like, how do you want your role to be? And what are you right now doing that actually doesn't light you up, or you're not very good at and someone else could do easily? Well, that forms a basis of your job list. And right, these are the tasks I want someone to do, but I want you to take this one step further. And this is what most people don't do. They say, right, I want someone to own my inbox. I want someone to do my social media, but they don't say, I want someone to remove. So I have one client who was in her inbox 24 hours a week, 24 hours a week. I want to reduce that to like 2 hours a week maximum. Like set some outcomes. Like I want someone to do my social media. I want them to build my reach, or I want them to boost the engagement, or I want them to build my group to X. Like, let's have some measures, because when we've got something to measure against, that person who's coming in to do that role knows what a good job is and knows what we're looking for and knows expectations. So it's about defining what tasks, the outcome, and then creating an advert and just going out there and looking. Like if you're looking for a freelancer, go and look where freelancers hang up, Facebook groups, like what is their interest, like freelancing websites, like Upwork or even Fiverr. If you're looking for an employee, where are they looking for a job? Indeed, Monster, if that's still a thing. Sometimes social media, but it's unlikely if your friends are all business owners on social media, you're not going to find someone as easily who wants to be employed. So just think about, where does that person hang up, and go and advertise for them. And I want you to remember that when you're hiring someone, like it is much about whether they want to work with you as you want to work with them. And no one's going to know that if you just go off a referral. So referrals are great, but then do some of the legwork yourself. I like ask them questions, even if it's an informal interview, have a conversation, see how they react in certain scenarios, put down on paper exactly what you want and how they do it. If that is that important to you. An example,
but that's a really important point, because so when I did this process, I figured out exactly what I wanted this person to be, and I actually then was able to call it a marketing assistant. It wasn't a VA, it wasn't an OBM, it wasn't any of those fancy like social media manager. I wanted a marketing assistant. I wanted somebody that I could, and I actually put in the ad, oh, I'm looking for my unicorn, because everyone was telling me that this person didn't exist. You couldn't find somebody that could do all the things. They can't do copy and images. They can't do images and tech. They can't do tech and funnels. They can't do funnels and write emails. But I was like, yeah, but I want the best.
Yeah. Let's just see.
Oh, why not? Why not ask the question, right? But I was really clear on what I wanted them to do. So I was like, these are the platforms I want you to work on. These are the kinds of things I want you to do. And I was very clear in my job description. So someone can look at that and go, I can do that. Now, there was one or two things, like, for example, Google Ads, that the person in question couldn't do. But that was okay. Like, it was like a preference. That was okay that she didn't do those couple of things. It was more important than the other stuff. And she stood out like a sore thumb from everybody else. Like it was so obvious she was the right person, and having a conversation with her was just so obvious. And I did an interview. I interviewed like 5 or 6 different people, and there was 2 or 3 that were very similar, and it would be really hard to pick between the 2. But then she just stood up like she was a standing unicorn with a like white mane and like just looked beautiful,
beautifully groomed and washed, and sparkly hooves.
I was like, I'm picking you, like pick me, like it's like I'm definitely picking you. And it was then when she came in, because I was very clear at the foremost of like, this is what I want you to do. Then when she started, she was up and ready to go. Like she was just like excited, and there was no curveball. There's no like, oh, I didn't realize I was meant to be doing that. And as a business owner, I think sometimes what we can be guilty of is we're scared to take on somebody because we're worried about the outlay. We're too scared to take on somebody because we're then worried about not just the cost of outlay, but also the outlay of time of what, having to invest in this person.
And what if it goes wrong and you have to have a difficult conversation? Like,
I
want to do that.
But you've got to do the upfront work and set the expectation. So therefore that takes time to then figure out what, like you said, exactly what do I need and what do I want them doing. So once I'd figured out that role and exactly what it was, that actually wasn't that difficult. That part was actually easier. And if I got it right, then it made the rest, that was like the magic bullet. The rest was so much easier thereafter.
I just did a post today on 50 Shades of Grey. And because I see that, not literally like whips and everything, although we are both horse riders, so we probably own whips for that reason.
Plenty of them,
You did say it was an informal podcast, so it's all right.
Yeah, it's fine.
But one of the major things I go into businesses and I look around, I'm like, well, no wonder this isn't working, because there's grey everywhere. There's no black or white. No one really knows where they stand. They don't know what a good job is. And then everyone's like people pleasing or pissing each other off. And it just doesn't work. Like, as business owners, we need to just be clear to start with. We can change our mind. This is what we need for now. And we can grow into this role. And that person comes in and is like, oh yeah, I can do this. And then they can say, oh, but I can also do this and do that. And I want to add in here, it's not just about what someone does, it's about the attitude someone brings, like behavioral, like how are they going to fit into the way you want to do
the
business?
Culture,
The culture
who you are.
Yeah. And you may not think like, oh, it's just me, I don't have a culture. You do. You have a style, you have a preference. Like, do you want someone who can work in the evenings and like is going to be messaging you for like wanting your input, or is that going to drive you nuts?
Yeah.
Do you want someone who's like a lone wolf and they can just go off and do things for themselves, but then aren't going to necessarily want you to check any of their stuff? Like they just want to get on with it. Like, what is your
I can't do needy. I cannot do. I'm I don't know the freaking answer. Just go and Google it. What are you asking me for? Like, that's my management style. Probably not best.
But I love that because you are black and white as a person, and that's why I just respect you, and we got on really well because you just always know where you stand with you. You're straight talking, you're direct, you're a real people person, and yet you don't suffer fools, and that's what I love. And I wish more people could be refreshingly straightforward as you, but unfortunately
some people don't like it. Some people don't like it though, I'll be honest with you, Skye, because they can't woo me or like bend me around their little finger, or I don't go. It's my daughter's the same. We don't really go with the little cliques and get in with the little groupies because it's just not who I am. I either like you, and that means I love you to bits, and like you've got all of me, kind of thing. Or I'm like, well, that's fine. You can just stand over there, and that's all good. But thank you for the compliment. I take that as a compliment. So thank you for the compliment.
It is a compliment. It is a compliment. But I also, I can see how it could go the other way. But when you look at your individual style, you've got a preference, you've got a way of working. And for some people, that will be heaven. For someone else, that might be hell. But the more aware you can be of that, the easier it'll be to find the right fit person for you. But what this comes back to, I can talk here about, let's be honest, it's going to bore you to tears if I carry on talking about the hiring process and this step and that step. Blah. Anyone can do that. The reality of it is, unless you truly know like yourself and your style, the way in which you do what you do, why you do, like your unconscious patterns of why do you keep finding the wrong person and hiring, or why is it that type of person keeps drawing you in? And it's not just hiring. This also happens, I help people with their love lives and because it's all about your support network.
And the reason I totally get that is because so when I first started my business, so this took 11 years ago, and I grew it to a point where I had 9 advisors. When I at that point, I was a very different person. The version you see now, I wouldn't say weaker because that sounds really derogatory, but I wasn't as strong in my boundaries, what I wanted. I didn't know myself as well. I didn't know what I wanted. And so I went into it, and what I'd say to people was, this is not Rebecca Robertson's show. So I don't want to be at the forefront. This is about you as much as it is about me. And I'm here to help you and support you. So I then take on these advisors where they have the mentality that I'm not important, as in me, Rebecca, aren't important, that they're more important. And actually everything that I do is to support them. So you can imagine that's the foundation of how I went into it and how they took the relationship to work. And you can imagine how hard that was for me for about 3 years. Because I had demanding divas. And if you're listening to my podcast and I don't talk to you anymore, there's a reason why I don't talk to you anymore, and you know why. That's because I don't suffer fools gladly, and I don't want people like that in my life anymore. Wish you all the best, send you all the love, good luck. And so I just had to say that just came out of nowhere. I don't mean that to sound terrible, but there was 3 years of even longer with one person where it just seemed it was all about them, and they just drained me of energy. They always was trying to cut me on the price. They wanted more out of me. They were just rinsing for whatever they could get out of me. And now, as I consider what my next step is to grow the company and what my next scale looks like, oh my God, the conversation would be completely different as towards how that would work. So you're so right. How you're thinking and how you're setting up the relationship from what your energy is, what your values are, where you're coming from is integral to everything. That literally wasted years, but I learned a lot from that process, so I don't regret it.
And what I want to add to that is, you were going in the mindset of like, teams come first, and there's a lot to be said for that. I've also worked with a lot of business owners who team just don't register, and it's like all about clients and profit and nothing about team. And I tell you what, that doesn't work either. You have to look after your people. It is about balancing the 3: team, customers, and profit. That being said, when you put everyone else before you and you put your own needs right to the bottom, it causes a real risk to the business, because at some point, and you may have the biggest fuse in the world or not, and the biggest tolerance in the world, but at some point you're going to start resenting that, and it's going to be heavy, and
Oh,
it's
I
going to be
did.
hard, and continuing
100%.
in that business in that way is going to be very, very difficult, which
Yeah.
is actually why I started. This is a tiny shameless plug here, but it is relevant. I started my app business HQ because I knew too many people were nervous to make that call on what they could invest in a team, or nervous about what they were paying themselves, or they were choosing to pay the team over paying themselves. And I was like, hang
Oh, it
on a minute.
happens. Yeah, it happens all the time.
Yeah, I've done it. I have done that same thing. And, it comes from a good place of investing and investing in others. And I'm not saying that it shouldn't happen, but it should only happen for a certain period of time. And then the scales need to change, and they need to tip in your favor. Otherwise, let's pack up the shop and go and get a job, because it would be a lot easier in many ways, I'm sure. But anyway, if you're listening to this as a business owner, continue, because it obviously is
So what's
amazing as
HQ?
well.
So explain. Now you've mentioned
HQ,
it.
yeah. It's my Simple HQ is an app. I'm afraid we're only launching in America right now because of the financial regulation. It connects directly to your bank account, and what it allows is for complete cash clarity. So if you've got 5,000, 10,000, let's say dollars at the moment, or pounds in your bank account, it will subdivide, a bit like the Dave Ramsey approach, or the envelope with money, or the profit first methodology. But instead of needing 101 bank accounts or envelopes under your pillow, it gives you like profit goggles on the front of your bank account, so you can see what money is yours, what money is there to reinvest in expenses, what's profit. And it also allows you to set personal and business goals, so you can start rewarding yourself for the frigging business.
Sounds amazing.
And we've wrapped with accountability as well, because what we've noticed is so many business owners, what is it, like 1 in 6, 1 in 7 go within the first year or two, and 60% go within the first 3 years. And that's because often it's exhausting time and they're not getting the money from it. So I'm like, I needed a tool to get the money lined up. I know how to create time for people. Win-win. I'm just not very good with numbers, but you are a numbers girl as well, and you make the wealth happen for people.
Yeah, but it's like sometimes I feel like a fat doctor. Sometimes I'm not. Or the new health secretary that's now been appointed, that says that she's not a health role model, but she's now the health secretary. There are so many ironic circumstances. I have to make. I have accountability with my bookkeeper, who has worked as a VA, that's worked in my business for years, and she does my management accounts, alongside quarterly meetings with my accountant. So, and that we do that on a rolling quarterly basis, so that I know when my business is on a quarterly basis, so I can make decisions in the tax year rather than after the event. But I have to have help with that. So even though I sort of know what I'm doing and I've been in business a while, you still need help and accountability, because you can't have your eye on everything all the time.
Yeah, and I would call that the independent block in us, that says I should be able to, I know what I'm doing. I am good at numbers. I am good at this. This is my thing. Yeah, we can be really independent about it, but actually sometimes it's really good to have someone else's perspective, someone else manage you on those things. And you can't hold it for your clients, and yourself all the time. And I think it's really amazing to say, and this is why I love the mission of my business, is we can only do so much as one person, and you are empowering other people to support you, and they're going on to go and help other people in the same way that they help you. And
we're helping the economy, literally. We're helping the economy. I have 2 members in my team. If I wasn't paying them, that's their main salary that they get. They're not employed, but that's their main income. They have other income as well, and it's important to them, and they love working in my company. They love doing what they do. So small business owners are crucial.
They are. I have got 5 people, so 4 people plus me in my business, and one was the last person's last day today, because she's worked with me for 5 years. She's been absolutely amazing.
Not Hannah.
No, not Hannah.
No.
Nikki is my home help and was childcare, but my one's gone to school, one's gone to nursery 2 days, and I also have other home help, so I'm not alone here still. And the circumstances have changed, and we've outgrown the situation, and I've got flowers behind me and earrings here and various things to give her, and we absolutely love her. But 4 months ago, I had to make the decision that actually this doesn't make cost sense.
Yeah. But what's interesting is that I would include in my like business, with my business hat on, the 3 people I have in my team, basically. But you've included, and at one point I did have a nanny, but mine are at school now. But what's interesting is in your 5, you included yourself and you included your home help.
Yeah.
And I think that was one of the light bulb moments that I had working with you as well. It's not just the support in your business, it's for a lot of women as well. It's actually where you're getting drawn off in different directions. And the amount of every team meeting that we have, we sort of have actually that's not true. Like when we go into a quarter or a new phase, like recently when we've come out of the summer into the September time, going into the end of the year, we sort of have a reflection, and all of the women are getting, and including myself, are getting drawn due to childcare issues in different ways. So like mine's a lot easier now, but some of them have younger children, and it's really difficult. You've got to pay for childcare. So I think then you're like, okay, but if I go and do bring someone into my team, or I bring in a cleaner, or I get more childcare, the concern is the financial aspect to grow that. But you've got to find a way to scale, and that is one of the most, if you can crack one thing, that's the thing to crack. And I just spoke today, I went to lunch with an accountant, a lovely lady called Stacey Foster, and she started her business about 6 years ago. She had a newborn baby. 18 months later, she had another baby, and she's just a year ago had another baby. And yeah, right, I know. I said to her, you're mad, like mental. But what was crucial in all of that is that she started quite fast and quite hard, and she had enough profitability in the business to bring on help, administration help, and also get a nanny. And she did, that was her decision. I know that's not every woman's decision in terms of the hours that she worked. And then more recently, when she had this last child, she actually brought in a new client accountant, that's a qualified accountant, to come in and actually take over basically the whole client business. So now she's gone back into the business. She's not actually managing clients anymore. She's the managing director and growing and scaling the company. And it was almost like having the baby was the catalyst. It was the best thing ever. And this happened very similar to myself, because I had to make adjustments to make the process work. I had to bring on staff. So that's why I think what you do is so important, because that mindset to shift from being a sole person or just a small team to scale and grow your business is all about bringing on the right people, doing the right job, giving you the right support.
Yeah, I love that. And the reason I went into this is because, quite frankly, I have two very entrepreneurial parents, and my mum gave up her dream to have us 4 children when she was 3 in, and was like, I can't juggle this anymore. Like she was breastfeeding under the stairs in a retail shop with a baby. And the au pair had only just passed her driving test and was running late, and she just couldn't take the emotional draw of it all. And then my dad always worked because A, he loves working, and B, he had the financial pressure to support us all. And so I was like, grew up being like, right, you can either be a great mummy or you can earn great money. Like, I want to do both. How is that possible? Like, is it possible? Because all I saw through generation of entrepreneurs was sacrifice. And to be successful, you had to sacrifice. And I'm like, I'm a hardworking person. I'm willing to do it. But I also want emotional connection.
Not to break at the same time.
Without breaking, and I love my dad and we get on really, really well, but he quite frankly has never done anything with me in his life other than basically walk me down the aisle. He financially supported me through, to the ends of the world, do anything for me. But
he was working all the time.
He was working all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. And saw he was the only person that could do things. He had to be in control of everything. He still to this day in his late 60s is out 6 o'clock on a Sunday morning doing his deliveries for his farming business because he thinks it has to be him. And he nearly didn't come on our family holiday because of it. And you're like, what is going on? And then I went to corporate and I learned, if you set up systems, you put up a structure, you found the right support and you could actually lead them, you can grow a business. I'm like,
and that brings me on to the next point, right? So because we've only got a few more minutes, so I know you need to go. So sorry to rush you. I don't mean to.
No.
Ages.
No, I can talk forever.
But we've now got the right people. We've thought about the right people for the right job. We've now got the right people now, and this is the next thing that was a light bulb moment for me, is that I always saw that the relationship with the people that worked in my team, that they were separate. They were self-employed and they were separate. And one of the biggest light bulb moments I had is having a weekly team meeting, and so that everyone came together and we had a scorecard of all of what the company goals were, and then everyone had to do their bit to go in and put their information, and then we have a 15-minute round robin, and everyone has to listen to everyone else's problems so that we can actually see it working. And that was, for me, quite amazing, because then when I went on holiday and I wasn't around so much, they were helping and supporting each other. And it's just meant that I was not having to micromanage people. I set up the expectations, and it was then much more easier for me to manage thereafter. One thing I haven't done is, I know you sort of an advocate for quarterly or monthly meetings for individual. I speak to my team so much. I think I don't think I need to do that. We have such an open relationship that the way that I talk to them is like, they know they could just, if there was a problem, they would talk to me anyway. But so that's the other thing that I learned from you.
The only thing I would, and thank you for sharing that, but the only thing I would say is, the reason why I'm an advocate for like quarterly catch-ups is because so often we just talk about the job. And I want to make sure that beyond the niceties of how's your weekend and how's your family and how you're feeling, like we actually talk about them and their job, like how are they doing, like what did they need to do for a stretch. So it's about the individual progression.
100%. And I do love that idea, and I probably need to do a bit more of that. One thing we do in our team meetings is what, like, as a team, we share what we expect, what you want to achieve in the role over the next quarter.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, and so they share what their quarterly goals are, and what and for example, just come out of the summer holidays, it's like, what did you learn over the summer holidays? And then before the summer holidays, it's like, how are you going to manage the summer holidays? What's your objective personally and in business to achieve over the summer holidays? And we do that collectively as a team, because then we share more openly about what's working and what's not working.
And no one's trying to hide the fact that they've got a child sick at home, and like, this is now
one of them whips their boob out and starts breastfeeding. It's like, and the husband's in the background going, what are you doing? Oh my God. It's like,
I think I was on calls with you with my newborn, like attached to me at one point. But how different though is that than, can you do this for me? Can you giving someone a task, like feeding someone each day with task. Your team are empowered to know their role, know the position within the business, know what they can make decisions on, know what they need your input on, drive things forward on your behalf. And it's just like, and it's not always perfect. I'm not a magician, and no one is. But it's just so much more freeing when you're not the bottleneck. And I tell you what, no one gets to 500,000 without burning out. In that sense, like, when I find like the 300,000 is a real tipping point. Like, if you can't free yourself as a bottleneck from that point, you're never going to scale beyond.
No, and what I'm doing now with them is that I've got bigger plans for next year, possibly the year after. So what I'm going to be doing with them now is I'm having those conversations with them now, and I'm basically saying to them, okay, this is where I see your role going. So therefore, this is the things I need you to start getting your head around.
You are already having those conversations. That's amazing.
Yeah, sort of like, the bigger role for the future in terms of, for example, marketing regulation. So my marketing assistant, I need her to start understanding marketing regulation more under the FCA rules, which is not something she really has to do much at the moment. But going forward, I need her to, as she's in the role, to start just keeping a closer eye on that and seeing what feedback we get and what reports come through, so she can sort of, rather than going, oh, that's nothing to do with me, that's not my job, I'm sort of trying to set them up for that next step. Any lasting tips and suggestions for people before we go today, Skye?
Okay, I would say that to be successful, like, you're going to need support at some level, whether that's home or in business. Being open to that and willing to do that sooner rather than later will really help you. And the whole thing is like thinking about, what do you do best? Do that, focus your time on that, and get help with everything else. Like, if you can do those two things, you will be able to grow your business, you'll be able to grow your career, have a happy family life as well. You got to just take people with you, including husbands, family members. I used to say my mother-in-law was my support team when she had my son for a day a week for me for free to start with. Your team is whoever is supporting you. Look after them, but most importantly, look after yourself.
100%. And what's your advice for those women that don't have support from partners in their business?
Mm. Well, I think it's a different matter if you don't have someone versus you have someone who isn't supportive, because one can feel like obviously lonely, but the other can be a bit more destructive, and have a few more like challenges. It's my experience from working with clients in that situation. It always comes down to communication. Like, what is it? Like, thinking about it from the second positioning, think about it from their perspective. What is really going on? Why are they really not that supportive? And if there physically isn't someone else to help you, then you're going to need some help, particularly if you have children or small children. Like, being superwoman is only going to lead to burnout. So start seeing, where would you like that help? It may not be at home, it may be in business, but equally, if it is at home, so you can spend more time in your business, like I did, there is nothing wrong with that either.
No, and asking mates for help, right? Just asking a bit for help now and here and there, school friends, whatever, pickups, whatever it takes to sort of just not feel like you're completely on a budget kind of thing with your time.
No.
Love today. Thank you for joining me. And how can people connect with you? What's the next step if they want to work with you?
Oh, well, come over and see me on Facebook or Instagram. I'm Skye_Barbour, or my website, www.skyebarbour.com. Come and there's a free quiz there on the website, all about like the mindset challenges to scaling a business, and pop me a message in the DMs.
Perfect. Loved talking to you today. There will be show notes with links that you can go and check those out. And you have a podcast too, right?
Yes, Full Freedom for Entrepreneurs, which you have featured on.
I have. Go and check it out. It's absolutely brilliant. And there'll be loads of advice on there for you. Thank you again, Skye, be in the house. Thank you for joining me and sending you all lots of love.
Lots of love. Thanks.